August 7, 2026. The Pentagon publishes its fifth tranche of declassified records to its public UAP archive, Pursue. 41 items, documents, images, and video, spanning cases from the 1940s to incidents inside the last decade. The headlines wrote themselves within hours. But read the government's own framing attached to these releases, and you find a sentence that has not changed across all 5 tranches. The Defense Department's UAP office states it has found no verifiable evidence that any released case involves extraterrestrial beings or technology. Both statements are true simultaneously. 41 new records, 0 confirmed extraterrestrial anything. The useful question isn't which statement wins. It's what standard of proof sits between them, and whether 5 tranches have moved us across it. This archive exists because Congress ordered it, but not the way Congress originally intended. The fiscal year 2024 National Defense Authorization Act, signed December 22, 2023, contained the Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Records Collection Act of 2024. It directed the National Archives to establish a government-wide UAP records collection and required agencies to review and transmit records, with disclosure presumed unless formally postponed. The stronger version, the Schumer-Rounds Amendment, with a 9-member independent review board and eminent domain authority over recovered material, was stripped in conference. What survived is a records transparency mechanism, not an investigative one. The All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, stood up in July 2022 and led since October 2024 by John Koslowski, controls the release pipeline. Material flows outward. Adjudication stays in-house. Here is the distinction that mainstream coverage almost never makes. A case can be unidentified because nobody collected enough information to identify it. One sensor, no range data, no radar correlation, a witness statement taken months later. That is a data failure, not a physics anomaly. Or a case can be unidentified because well-characterized instruments recorded behavior that known objects cannot produce. That is a genuinely different claim. URO's Historical Record Report, Volume 1, released March 8, 2024, put it bluntly. The office found no evidence that any USG investigation, academic-sponsored research, or official review panel has confirmed that any sighting of a UAP represented extraterrestrial technology. Note the verb, confirmed. That word is doing an enormous amount of work. Now the tranche's headline case, September 2021. An Air Force AC-130J gunship operating over the Gulf of Oman records infrared footage of what crew described as orbs, appearing cold against the background, with reported movement operators found unusual. Footage of this general type circulated publicly for years before official posting through independent researchers. Its arrival in an official archive changes its provenance, not its content. So what does the file actually establish? That a calibrated military electro-optical sensor recorded discrete objects. That trained aircrew, who watched this display for a living, considered the behavior atypical. That's real. That's not nothing. But it is a long way from establishing what the object was, how large it was, or how fast it moved. Infrared sensors do not measure temperature. They measure apparent radiance, energy arriving at the detector, filtered through atmosphere, emissivity, and the operator's display polarity setting. Cold is therefore a description of screen appearance, not a physical measurement. In black-hot polarity, a dark blob may be cooler than its surroundings, or simply less emissive, or further away, or both. Then there's the harder problem, range. Without a laser rangefinder return, an electro-optical track gives you angles, not distance. And without distance, apparent motion cannot be converted into speed. A gunship flying a pylon turn generates parallax that makes distant stationary objects appear to slide across terrain. Multi-sensor corroboration solves this. Radar plus optical plus range, time synchronized. That is precisely what these files typically lack. The tranche also includes FBI interview summaries, different evidence type, different failure modes. Witnesses describe red lights, triangular formations, and in at least one account, an analog watch found running 25 minutes fast after an encounter. That last detail is the one people seize on, an apparent physical trace, something beyond eyewitness impression. Consider what would be required to make it evidentiary: a documented pre-incident time check, chain of custody on the watch, independent metrology showing magnetization or mechanical damage consistent with an external field, a control comparison. None of that exists in an interview summary. What exists is a person telling a federal agent something they noticed afterward. Mechanical and quartz watches drift, stop, and gain time for entirely ordinary reasons. There's a structural problem with interview summaries that declassification does not fix. An FBI 302 is not a transcript. It is an agent's written paraphrase of what a witness said. By the time it reaches a public archive, the account has passed through recollection, paraphrase, typing, filing, and redaction review. Declassification authenticates that the document is genuinely a government record. It does not